Testing 1 2, test testing 1 2. Testing 1 2, test. We got it. Two, test. Can be a problem is make sure that we can hear you.
Sure.
So, and you can do this however you prefer. We can have it up here like this, if that's easiest for you. If you can speak into it, I'll make sure I can hear you.
Okay.
And then if not, we'll just have you hold it just to make sure that not just you can hear you, but
The
recording.
video. Sure.
Yeah.
We'll just let her. Yep.
I'll hear you right now.
Okay. Testing.
So now make sure that you're going to... Okay, perfect. We can hear you there. So now do it like you're going to be like you're
Speaking?
standing normally. Yeah.
Okay.
Because I'm assuming you're not going to want to lean that deep into it.
Right. Actually, yeah. If I'm standing like this, can I pull it forward? Okay.
This is yours. This is your show.
Let's see. How is that? Is that still too quiet?
Not too. Wait 1 second. I have my laptop down low, so that's perfect.
This is good? Okay.
That's
Great.
perfect.
Thank you.
And then mute this for it. Just that way we
John Lee, is there I'm gonna try to look up her name.
Don't be shy. Gotta be brave.
See, I was behind the camera, and now
All right. So,
He thought he was coming here to interview people.
yeah.
do you want me to hold the camera?
I mean, at this point, sure, yeah.
You poor
that'd be
thing.
great.
Oh, that's awful. I can't believe I'm doing. So you came to film us,
Yeah, and now
and let me tell you, we're a group. We're like we get.
you have a lot of followers too. I've never heard of
Yeah.
Parents Against Indoctrination until
Yeah.
I was looking up.
Should I
Yeah.
say
Freedom fighters.
Yes. And Bob's gonna
After
go.
Matthew, I'll come.
Do you want to go after Bob, or do you want to go before?
Maybe because you don't want to go after someone who's really good. So
Well, I
you
suck,
go-
so don't worry
you go
about it.
after me. So
No, no, you're good. You'll be great.
I'm Susanna. Nice to meet you.
Another good speaker. Not just doing the documentary. Hopefully he's not tricky after that.
I'm speaking now.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to call our meeting to order. Thank you. So today is June 28th, 2022. This is a business meeting of the North Kingstown School Committee. I'd ask if you could all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Mr. Blasbach.
Here.
Mrs. Hildebrand.
Here.
Mrs. Hoskins.
Here.
Mrs. Lima.
Here.
Mr. Mather.
Here.
Mrs. Schott.
Thank you. And if you could please call the calendar.
Tonight is our last business meeting for the 21-22 school year. The next two meetings on the calendar will be in August, Tuesday, August 16th, and Tuesday, August 30th.
Thank you. And next item we have are presentations and recognitions. So we have a presentation from Effective School Solutions. So they're going to do, okay, so we'll head down there. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Jen Murray. I am the Director of District Partnerships for Effective School Solutions. I want to thank the committee for letting me join you tonight to share with you some of the proposed changes that we are putting forth if we are able to continue our partnership next school year. Before I start, I just want to kind of review the current year programming and kind of catch us up to how we got to where we are today. As many of you probably know, Effective School Solutions was awarded the RFP to serve the school-based mental health services for the 2021, 2022 school year. Those services were focused exclusively on North Kingstown High School and Davisville Middle School. The focus of the partnership was to provide the really comprehensive clinical programming for 20 students at North Kingstown High and 10 students at DMS. With Effective School Solutions really taking on this kind of Tier 3, which I'll kind of look at the next slide, what we're talking about with Tier 3, but the kind of students with the highest level of mental health needs, the idea was that we would free up the existing clinical supports in the building to support the students with mild to moderate mental health needs. While the partnership has had a positive impact on student outcomes, and reducing out-of-district placements for the students in our caseload. There is a desire for, especially at North Kingstown High School, to support more of the students with a Tier 2 level of need, which would be students with mild to moderate mental health needs. Again, we'll look at that on the next slide. So what we're proposing is a shift in the programming for the upcoming school year that will allow us to increase the number of students receiving services and also increase the professional learning opportunities and support to improve teacher wellness at North Kingstown High School. As an organization, Effective School Solutions organizes our supports and programs on an MTSS continuum, or multi-tiered system of support continuum. So just like an academic MTSS approach, the students with the highest level of need would be in that Tier 3 space, so the students requiring the most significant level of intervention. And that is really where our partnership was focused on this current year. Tier 2, we're talking about students that have mild to moderate needs for mental health support. And so as you'll see in my upcoming slides, is that we are proposing that we increase the focus here for the upcoming school year at North Kingstown High School to allow us to support more students. Tier 1 includes all of the work that the district is doing to support the mental health of all students. And so what we've included and increased in this upcoming school year is more professional development and support for teachers so that they can really increase that capacity at Tier 1. So a quick highlights from this current school year. So our current partnership includes 3 mental health clinicians. 2 of them are housed at North Kingstown High School and 1 at DMS. The partnership started in November, so we had 1 clinician at that point at North Kingstown High School and 1 at DMS. The second clinician to join North Kingstown High School joined in February of this school year. Together, they delivered 487 individual sessions, 45 group sessions, 332 family sessions, 427 therapeutic check-ins, and 49 unscheduled or what we call urgent interventions. A significant amount of the work that was completed this year really focused on the homeschool connection and supporting families of the students receiving the services. A significant proportion of the students were also experiencing school avoidance. So that homeschool partnership connection and the ability to do home visits and support that transition back to school was a big component of their work this year. It is estimated that of the 30 students that were on our caseload, without this level of clinical support, 8 students could require an out-of-district placement this year. And so that, when calculating the tuition and transportation for an out-of-district placement, that would save the district $800,000 in cost avoidance from having those students have to require an out-of-district placement. Another highlight, I think, from the programming this year is the overwhelming positive parent feedback we've gotten from our parent surveys. Many of the students that we support in a Tier 3 clinical program have complex issues that require significant intervention. So this is a look at some of the diagnoses and clinical symptoms that we were supporting here at North Kingstown this high school this year. Some of the diagnoses include PTSD, acute stress disorder, autism spectrum disorders, eating disorders, disruptive behavior disorder, major depressive disorder, ADHD, reactive attachment disorder, anxiety disorder, and oppositional defiant disorder. For our Tier 3 programming, we really utilize what we like to think of as a symphony of interventions to really support students so that they can access the curriculum. So the 3 real modalities that we're using with our Tier 3 program are group therapy, individual therapy, and weekly therapy. So those are all the services delivered directly to the student and their family. And then in addition to that, we provide a parent support group monthly and ongoing caregiver and parent collaboration, which has been, again, a real big part of the work this year in helping students return back to school. We overlay that with clinical supervision and then protocols for how we manage the care of each of these students, especially for students with specific subsets of challenges. And we also include objective data collection and measure of outcomes, which I know Dr. Carson had shared some data in May. And the school year actually concluded, as you know, on Friday, so we'll be able to share back the full year impact data in a subsequent meeting as well. So some of the kind of key components that really separate effective school solutions from districts that really take on the initiative to do this on their own are the facts that we are research-based. So our therapeutic approach is research-based and validated from an external third party. The structured approach that we take to clinical care. So our programs are really clearly defined in their therapeutic delivery. The data competency, so again, we keep a lot of data on the impact of our programs, and we are able to share that data back regularly so that you can objectively look at the impact of the partnership. Staffing experience, so this is our experience really finding folks with the clinical background that is necessary to support students with this level of clinical need. And the last is the family connection component. So that's what really enables us to continue working with parents to support issues that are at school and at home. So when districts think about creating a Tier 3 program on their own, this is just a list of those components that would have to be embedded and kind of brought in if they're not already existing within the district. So for this particular partnership, we would need to have 3 full-time clinicians with the availability to work overtime, to do evening work with families and parents, a clinical supervisor, quality and risk management. So we have a team that combs through our electronic medical record system looking for patterns or anything that might need kind of another layer of the onion peeled back. The actual electronic medical record system itself, the protocols and the programming that really guide the work that we do with students, professional development, which I'll come back to that in just a minute, but that is an important part of building the capacity of the district overall. And then also ESY, or extended school year programming. So we would be able to offer that support this summer if we were to continue the partnership. In looking at all of those expenses, if none of those existed already, the cost to implement that on your own would be $665,000. And of course, that does not include the additional out-of-district expenses that you could incur while building the program on your own. So this is a look at the changes we're proposing. So what you see on the left are the components of our programming for this current year. So again, we had 3 clinicians, all focusing on Tier 3. So a Tier 3 clinician can carry a caseload of 10 students. So at the high school, the 2 clinicians could carry a caseload of 20 students, and at DMS, we could carry a caseload of 10 students. We also included in the partnership this year 18 hours of professional development, but those hours were not able to be used because of some conflicts and challenges with the schedule of the school year. I think this year more than ever, there was a kind of insurmountable amount of demands put on teachers' time, and so professional development for many of our districts just was not possible this year. So when we look at what we want to do in the upcoming year, is we want to keep 1 clinician at North Kingstown High still fully serving that Tier 3 caseload. There are certainly students that do require that level of care, and so we want to make sure that we're still providing that level of care for those students. So that would be a caseload of 10 at the Tier 3 level. We want to shift the other clinician to be a Tier 2 level of care. So at a Tier 2 level, a clinician can carry a caseload of up to 20 students, and those students tend to be with us for a shorter amount of time. The average time is actually 6 to 8 weeks, and those students tend to have more episodic needs, whereas our Tier 3 students are really with us most often for the duration of the school year. For Tier 2, we're able to serve students that can kind of cycle in and out of support throughout the school year. At DMS, the need is still there for a Tier 3 level of care, so we are recommending maintaining that at DMS this upcoming school year. In terms of professional development, we're recommending carrying over the 18 hours that were unused this year, and then also increasing 30 additional hours. And I know that might sound like a lot when we weren't able to get 18 in last year, but we're really thinking creatively about how to maximize the time that teachers do have to make that really happen, to make that a possibility. One of the ideas that was considered is using common planning time, especially at DMS, to support some trauma-attuned learning. And another initiative that we'd love to be able to offer is a monthly workshop to support teacher wellness at North Kingstown High. And I'll just show you a little bit more on that in just a second. And then we wanted to include some professional development for teacher assistants who have a number of hours that are kind of required to be done in professional development each year. And so we could focus that professional development on trauma-attuned learning as well. And then another new component to the partnership, which I'll show you in just a second, is a virtual learning series for parents and caregivers. So in total, that would allow us to serve 100 to 120 students this upcoming school year. But I just want to be clear that it really would depend on student acuity. So as we're holding 20 students right now at the Tier 3 level at North Kingstown High School, we do expect that 4 of those students would be able to step down to a Tier 2 level of care in the fall. But we do understand that it will take a little bit of extra time to stabilize those students as they return to school. And so the caseload could really fluctuate and start maybe on the lower end in fall, around 15, and then build up to the 20 as those students are stabilized. The total number of professional development hours included would be 48. And then we were able to offer a fee reduction really as a sign of our commitment to continuing the partnership for this upcoming school year. So the cost would be $415,000 for the year. So just a little bit on the two new components that we're proposing for this upcoming school year. The self-care educators series, for educators. It's really a psycho-ed processing group, so it would meet monthly. Half of the time is really spent with psychoeducational topics, like you see on the right, and the other half is really processing and giving educators an opportunity to share their experience. And the other new component for the upcoming school year is a virtual learning series for parents. So the goal here is to help parents to really be able to recognize the signs and symptoms of students struggling with mental health challenges and have some basic tools to be able to support conversations in the home. We included 6 workshops for the upcoming school year. Idea being that we could take some of them and really pick developmentally appropriate topics. If, for example, you wanted to do something specific for elementary parents, and then maybe some of the topics that are more aligned with secondary level. So that's it. That's the kind of recommended proposal for the upcoming school year. I'd be happy to take any questions from the committee if there are any. That's a good question. I should answer in the microphone, I'm assuming. The question was around professional development. So I think if we're able to work creatively and do smaller groups of workshops, which is what we've done with a lot of our partner districts this year, so it might be that there's a workshop series for a group of 6 or 8 English teachers at the high school level, and we could create a series for them, specifically for those subsets of teachers. And that's, again, one of the reasons that we actually increased the hours by so many, so that we could allot for more smaller, kind of cohort-based workshop opportunities. Yep. Sure. So a lot of what we're recognizing for the positive outcomes on students is the fact that, sorry, I'm pressing buttons here, is the fact that we did not need to refer students to an out-of-district placement or to a higher level of care, and that their clinical progress towards their clinical goals increased over time. And I can tell you that a quick kind of sneak peek at some of the data that's coming does indicate that we've seen demonstrated changes in grades and attendance as well. I think one of the challenges that we had is that we have to have students in with us for at least 6 weeks in order to be able to show change over time. And so when we were there in May, some of our students really weren't there yet still, in a place where we could show data. So the data that was shown was a relatively small number from the overall students that were served. I don't have it fully available, just in full transparency. We have a full series of collecting data that has to happen and then has to be analyzed, and with grades just closing on Friday, I wasn't able to get that in time, especially having to give the slides last week. Mm-hmm. Sure. So those areas that we're focused on would still be areas of focus, and we usually create those areas of focus based upon the data that we're getting back. So when we get this end-of-year data after Friday, we would kind of realign our areas of focus for the upcoming school year. Sure. That's a good question. So how often is the data available? So we really have to have, for grade data, of course, we have to wait for grades to change. So we could do that quarterly. Each time that grades change, we could certainly come back and show you that. And we're actually working on rolling out next year a more live visibility where administrators can log in and see exactly how many students are being served and some of those metrics. It's actually in the process of being developed right now, but we are hoping to have that in the fall. But certainly quarterly, we could share back data. And we could have even snippets anytime in between, but it just wouldn't show impact of grades necessarily. Yeah, absolutely. Sure. The total caseload was 30. at the end of the school year. Yes. Yep. My pleasure.
Thank you very much for the presentation. Mr. Waterman, do you have any other recognitions?
I do, thank you. My first recognition this night comes out of the high school. Janice Strain from the high school art department would like to report that out of her 18 accepted students, 4 were awarded as high merits in the Celebrating Art Spring 2022 edition of their full color book. The students are I was waiting for the applause, but I didn't know if I was going to do the names first. So I'll do the names, and if you want to clap again, I'll pause. Jackie Blair, Olivia Evanson, Olivia Wood, and Nadine Bredhart. All their accepted artwork will be featured in the anthology Celebrating Art, is devoted to the promotion, appreciation, and record of the creative works of today's student artists. Continuing on, in addition, her students Jacqueline Blair, Bo Real, Olivia Wood, Olivia Evanson, Mark McDonald, and Faith Veasley were accepted to have their artwork featured on this year's Senator Jack Reed's High School Virtual Gallery. And Janice Strain also reports that she is currently exhibiting her own artwork in the State of the Arts URI, RIC, CCRI faculty, student, alumni, and retired faculty student exhibit from June 1st to June 30th at the URI Feinstein campus in Providence. So congratulations to all. We also have 2 state championships to celebrate from North Kingstown High School. The boys volleyball team beat LaSalle in 5 sets. And North Kingstown High School boys baseball beat Hendricken in a best-of-3 series, 2-0 in extra innings. Both events were very exciting, and congratulations to all. Thank you.
Thank you. So we've reached citizens' comments. As always, I ask if you could please state your name and address, including the town, for the record, as well as please limit your comments to 3 minutes. If you haven't done it before, when the timer starts to blink red and then shuts off, that means your 3 minutes have expired, and I'd ask you to please wrap up your comments. So the first person who signed up is Lisa Garcia.
My name is Lisa Garcia. I live at 394 Westmoreland Lane, Saunderstown. I'm a math teacher at North Kingstown High School. In my role as Rhode Island Teacher of the Year, I have been advocating for time and resources to be put towards educator wellness. I would like to report that Kristen Beelan and I began work with Kathy Sapala, the interim assistant superintendent here at North Kingstown. We plan to dedicate time towards educator wellness during the administrative retreat this summer and on Convocation Day this upcoming school year. Over the past decades, we have had many technology advances, learning management systems, electronic grading, and email. While technology is valuable, these tools have created a perception of urgency to which our education system is compelled to respond immediately. This perception has led to unhealthy habits for both teachers and students. COVID has made teachers loosen their healthy boundaries of time spent on the job. Many of us work with students at all hours of the day, adjusting to irregular work and family schedules. Setting boundaries and writing teacher-driven norms are ways to create healthier school environments. Kristen and I hope to facilitate writing norms for communication and grading with North Kingstown teachers and administration. This will help to build the much-needed structure and expectations back into our classroom. While I am hopeful this will be the beginning of the work necessary to cultivate a positive school culture for both teachers and students, I would like to urge the school committee to approve our norms as policy once they are written and to ensure this work has longevity. I would also like to ask that when hiring our new leadership, we choose a superintendent that has a skill set to build relationships with teachers and students and that can continue the work needed in our system for educator wellness. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Brian Odell.
Brian Odell, 152 Salisbury Avenue, North Kingstown. I wanted you to know that I've reached out to the Center for Legal Equality, a new organization that's part of America First Legal. They're a group of lawyers fighting against woke ideology, equity-based exclusion, abusive diversity, equity, and inclusion policies, and other instances of discrimination in the corporate world and in schools. They now know about the conversations being bandied about in your DEI meetings and other instances where some of you have discussed the need to hire a new superintendent, an assistant superintendent based on race and or gender. That's against the law. They're also aware of your conversation about hiring more male teachers. Even though NK teacher ranks are mostly female, hiring based on gender is also against the law. I will also be keeping them in the loop on any programs, policies, and or initiatives you implement that distinguish students in any way based on race or gender. Those would also be against the law, just so you know.
Thank you. Next is Matthew Uzabor. Sorry if I pronounced that wrong.
Thank you all for giving me this platform to speak.
Can you pull the microphone up a little? Sorry, it's hard to hear you.
Sorry about that.
Sorry.
Is this perfect?
That's better, yes.
Awesome. Well, yes, I'm a filmmaker.
Sorry, if you could speak your name and address for the record. Sorry to keep interrupting you, then I'll let you go.
I'm Matthew Osabor, 100 North Main Street.
And
I'm
the town, sorry?
Providence, Rhode Island.
Thank you.
Yes. And I was at the protest on Friday in light of the Roe v. Wade decision, where I witnessed firsthand the altercation between the two candidates. Saw, Jennifer Rourke get violated, assaulted in front of Matt Brown was there, Brett Smiley was there, Nerva was there, everyone was there, and it was, we tried to de-escalate the situation, but it was just an eye-opener that there's a lot of violence going on right now, and we need to do something about that, especially you all being in a position of authority, not to call out Matt Brown, but he sort of stood by, and he sort of, when it hit the fan, Mr. Brown sort of stood to the side a little bit, and I just feel that being in a position of leadership, you all should, be leaders and make sure that violence is something that we should unequivocally be unopposed to. And second of all, I'd like to touch upon the presentation that was given earlier today and just say that, one thing that was a bit concerning was, how to sort of bring out or how to aggregate and showcase the progress that will come about from these reforms. Asking for a budget to do something, like I said, as a filmmaker, if you're going to an investor and you're asking for money to do something, you go through all the steps, and there has to be a way to sort of say this is what success is defined as to us, which you all did, but also a way that the public can, or the investor can receive that success as well. And I think that the problem with not having a developed system of showcasing progress at the last meeting when that's being asked for is a huge problem. And I think that if you all can find a way to come about with, if you can find a way to make that available, again, very transparent. I know you said that it can be made quarterly and you're working on it, but I feel that if you all could find a way to steamroll that before the next, before the fall starts, it would be helpful for the public, for all the parents here, and for you all as administrators to see how well you're doing, and more importantly for the students who most desperately need this on themselves. I'm originally from Ohio. I just came here to school at Brown, stayed in Providence, Rhode Island. I love Providence. I love Rhode Island in general. It's a great place being a filmmaker. Within 15 minutes, you can get a city, a suburban area, a beach, a desert. There's everything here. So you all really have a vibrant community. And let's keep the youth here. Let's keep people here. And that starts with you all at this level. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next is Robert Ciardello, I believe. And so again, sorry if I mispronounce any names.
evening. Good evening. Robert Caradillo, Westerly, Rhode Island.
If you could speak your full address, sir.
I'm sorry, sir?
If you could just state your full address.
86B Quanticut Road in Westerly.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I've been following the goings-on in North Kingstown schools for about the last 18 months, almost as long as I've been following and have been engaged with Westerly Public Schools. The similarities of the two districts I've observed are striking. Both districts have abandoned the traditionally successful educational philosophy based on equality of opportunity in favor of a system based on equitable outcomes as seen through the prism of race. Both districts attempt to utilize invasive surveys to usurp parental authority and become the primary influencer of the kids whose care they are entrusted with. Both districts have proven themselves to be very clever at trying to cover up things they've done to these kids, which will likely and hopefully land some in jail and lighten their pocketbooks. Administrators are leaving or being retired. Here, with a coach sexually abusing kids, allegedly, who trusted him for years while others disgracefully covered it up. And a Westerly teacher now looking for another job made inappropriate TikTok videos both with and for her middle school students. Pornography permeates our school libraries. Finally, both districts have school committees who are dominated by radical America-hating tyrants who care only about how kids can be manipulated and indoctrinated into transforming our state and our great country into some kind of racialized, radicalized, hypersexualized utopia. Their version of it, anyway. The purpose of my remarks this evening were to let you, specifically Ms. Lehman, know that we are not going away. We are winning. We will never allow you to poison and destroy our kids, threaten and demean our good teachers, and make your sick beliefs the way of our country. For our young girls, sex work is not and never will be real work. For our boys, it will never be wrong to embrace their masculinity and turn into men we can be proud of. We will not allow you to teach that there are more than two genders, that gender is fluid, that men can become pregnant. Our females are called girls, ladies, and women, and not birthing people or menstruating people. We will not allow you to teach our kids to hate themselves, each other, or this country, that white people are evil oppressors and that black people are perpetual victims who don't have what it takes to achieve excellence without an artificially engineered outcome, that this country was founded upon racist principles and to save slavery.
I have to ask you to please wrap up, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Truth is something you do not understand and will do anything to suppress, but you will not and cannot silence us, and you cannot silence God and the truth.
Again, sir, I have to ask you to
We are
please
taking back
wrap
our
up.
schools. We are taking back our state. We are taking back our country. You are on your way out. Make book on that.
Thank you, sir. Your time has expired.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Susanna Tingley.
Good evening, Susanna Tingley, 750 Hatchery Road. I ask you to reject the ESS contract. Significant student improvements have not been demonstrated. You were guilted into this contract a year ago with Dr. Mansieri, and several members expressed at that time that you would not be able to sustain this program. I encourage you to explore other options to provide mental health support that will impact more students and be a better use of $450,000. I also don't support the addition of another school committee member to the superintendent search committee. The school committee approves and hires the new superintendent. I ask that you allow a group of equal representation to screen the candidates brought to you. Lastly, the need for anti-Semitic education was discussed during a recent DEI meeting. 3 DEI members shared their concern that the Holocaust is not being taught in the middle schools. A teacher shared that students do not have extensive exposure to the atrocities of the Holocaust in order to understand the impact of offensive anti-Semitic comments. His experience was that 8th graders' only exposure to the Holocaust was reading from the cartoon book Mouse. 2 other members also stated they do not believe that the Holocaust is being taught. Civil rights are taught in 6th grade history, Asian culture, and Japanese American internment camps in 7th, and World War II and Holocaust are supposed to be taught in the 8th grade. Concerns about the sexualized, racialized, politicized curriculum have been brought to you all year. Inaccuracies and shameful omissions as the genocide of 6 million Jews are dangerous. America is a nation where the Holocaust survivors have rebuilt their lives, and over 400,000 soldiers died defeating fascism, and where many veterans who were eyewitnesses to the Holocaust have committed to Holocaust education. If our country doesn't know and understand its history, it creates a country that is lost, confused, and chaotic. And this is not an accident, it's by design. The intentional removal of history from the curriculum. NK is not alone. The Holocaust has been removed from curriculums across the state. There were also 12 pages of books on this agenda that are being removed from our schools. It takes one generation to erase our country's history, but parents are watching, we are aware, and we are holding you accountable for your actions and what is happening in our schools. Look at the curriculum. You need to fix this.
Thank you. Next is Megan Riley. Okay.
Megan Riley, 15 Eden Court, North Kingstown. My first school committee meeting was October 26th. And that's the first time I ever spoke, and it was 3 days before the Aaron Thomas case broke. I had no idea what I was in for as I started peeling back the layers of the onion that is this school department. And in the words of Mr. Blasbog that evening, tonight I am not speaking to you as your opinions are set in stone. For those who are willing to listen, I offer these observations. Tonight, I'd like to speak to the community. I'd like to speak to the teachers who have come out to speak out. We as parents who have been here, some much longer than I have been, are very grateful for the support that you are showing our students. And it's about time that I am able to speak to people who will listen. I have had 3 minutes once every other week, if that. You get cut off, and quite frankly, I don't feel like I'm being listened to, and I see that my other parents here are not being listened to either. Over 24 unanswered emails, and as a result, I've had to APRA many, many things, only to be told, what can we do to get you to stop APRAing? I want to thank Thomas Southwick because he basically started the trend of people speaking out. He was brave, as were all the whistleblowers, and as a result, more parents, like myself, felt brave. We felt like we could start to speak out, and as a result, we also found groups of friends, people whom I really cherish, because I am now advocating for not only my own 4 children in this district, but also, hopefully, for other children. I continue to have to Google to find out what's going on. In fact, on Thursday evening, I was Googling something else that had taken place in the high school recently, and I actually found a story that was buried from 2019, but will be going to trial on August 9th. Administrators are leaving. People are starting to speak out. Parents who have been ignored are able now to be heard. Students who have filed complaints, even though Ms. Lima seems to think that there should be more of a way for people to file complaints. Well, the complaints that have been filed haven't been listened to for years. For years. So why would anyone want to file any more complaints? Myself included. And I just want to finish up by saying that elections are coming, and I just hope that everyone researches who is running. Please don't vote on name recognition only, because that got us into some serious trouble. Other districts, don't let them blame COVID. Other districts have dealt with COVID and have come out much better than we. I'm sick of reading reports about North Kingstown for negative reasons. All 5 of these school committee members have voted the same way the whole time I've been here.
I'd ask you to please wrap up.
Most of the time, but I'm not talking to you. So I just want, I'm sorry, I can't hear because she's interrupting.
Okay, your time's expired, though.
So please think about who you're going to be voting for.
Your time's expired, please.
It's very important. I was just getting my time back from her. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Ramona Bessinger.
Hello, my name is Ramona Bessinger, 437 Davitt Avenue, Jamestown, Rhode Island. Well, here we are at the end of this school year, and I would like to reiterate and repeat that in 23 years of me being an educator and a mother of 4 children, I have never, ever seen so much division and so many unhappy parents and so many cases of violent, abusive behavior taking place in our schools. Schools are out of control. Teachers are leaving the profession. It is not some ridiculous, stupid wellness program that is going to fix anything. It is not another curriculum bought and paid for by your political affiliations that is going to change the or solve the imagined diversity problem that you have conjured up as a way to dismantle our community. And I might add that it is not just the community here in NK that is experiencing this sort of division, this sort of dissent and the resignations and turmoil. We are seeing this all over the state of Rhode Island. We are seeing upset parents. We are seeing numbers of violence on the rise in our schools. Your restorative justice program does not work. Your social emotional learning programs are bullshit. They are money laundering scams in order to advance a political agenda that comes from the Rhode Island Department of Education, spearheaded by Angelica Infante Green, and further coming from the Federal Board of Education. It is nothing other than political grandstanding and political propaganda that you are infusing into our schools. And quite frankly, you are using our children as political weapons. It has to stop. You have control of the money. And you sit up there time after time after time, school committee meeting, APRA request after APRA request, and you have done nothing. You are steamrolling your agenda through without any regard of what parents have expressed, without any regard for the violence that is occurring in our schools, that you are all burying, all of you. You should be ashamed of yourselves. This is the worst school committee. The worst time. It is unbelievable what I am witnessing.
If you could please wrap up.
I'm not done. It is unbelievable what I have witnessed and what I have seen.
Thank you. Next is Lauren Brothers.
Good evening. My name is Lauren Brothers, and I live at 20 Deck Street in Jamestown, Rhode Island. I am a science teacher at North Kingstown High School and the proud mother of 2 children in the graduating classes of 2035 and 38. Let me start by thanking the teachers and community for being here. And I'm speaking tonight because I know how much greatness there is in this district, and I'm going to do what I can to preserve it. I'm sure a lot of people can relate when I say that I find myself on an emotional roller coaster ride every time someone asks me, "So, how was your school year?" The conversations about where I work have become awkward. I'm grateful for the hard work and dedication of the students and teachers, which gives me a positive thing to talk about. However, there are a lot of problems that need to be solved. For example, the teachers have a contract expiring in 2 days without any negotiation meeting so far. I'm concerned about the reasoning behind the delay and sincerely hope that we don't find ourselves in this unfortunate timing situation again. Additionally, there has been no communication regarding the staff members who were put on administrative leave at the beginning of May, and additional lawsuits have been revealed through the media. Many people are still in the district who absolutely did not act appropriately regarding the termination and physical departure of a delusional pedophile. I am not convinced that important lessons regarding truth and transparency have been learned. I will conclude by reiterating what I requested previously for the upcoming contract, which needs to convince us to stay. Number 1, significantly better maternity leave so that we can start doing the right thing for children even before they enter pre-K. I would like to see this district set a positive example for the rest of the country with respect to supporting women after they give birth, whether they wanted to or not. Second, $56 per hour for all overtime pay, and third, substantial raises, neither of which I need to explain. Amicably providing a fair contract may be the last thing you are able to do to retain the amazing teachers of this district. Sincere personal accountability and apologies would also be nice. I am here to help the district heal and move forward. Please be an active part of the solution. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Ryan LaFond.
Hello. My name is Ryan LaFond, 371 Phoenix Ave, Cranston, but I am a teacher at Davisville Middle School. I just wanted to take a moment to commend the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Subcommittee for the work that they began this year. North Kingstown is becoming more diverse, a trend that is likely to continue in our future. Our school community is made up of individuals from a wide variety of religions, abilities, sexual orientations, gender identities, and ethnic and cultural backgrounds. Students do best when they feel recognized, accepted, and celebrated. They are more likely to be involved in school activities and become thoughtful and engaged members of the community. I believe that we do a great job educating all students in North Kingstown, but it would be a shame if we didn't always strive to be better. It isn't and shouldn't be the responsibility of a singular committee to identify and fix every issue, but I appreciate you starting the conversation. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Tiffany McLeod.
Tiffany McLeod, 127 Brookhaven Road, North Kingstown. You guys have not done a good job this year at all, and I hope you guys realize how much that has affected our community. How hard it's been for us as parents to battle with you every single day to just listen to our concerns. You've ignored us. You have lied to us. You've put our children in harm's way. You have failed in every way imaginable. Jen, you in particular. We all know that Roe v. Wade is a very emotional, highly emotional issue right now. You reposted something on Facebook to the tune of rage and resist. I'm really bothered by that. If you want to rage and resist, have at it. You're a grown-ass woman, and I can't stop you. but you are also an elected official in this town, one that many young women look up to. Using social media to encourage violence is unacceptable. Let's add insult to injury. You again took to social media to shame Susanna for being angry about this. You want to rage about abortion, but you want to normalize this? This. Are you kidding me? This is appropriate? Susanna doesn't have the right to rage and resist something that shows women being completely demoralized, raped, and forced to eat out of a dog bowl while on a leash?
Mr. Chair, this is going beyond public comments when we're now demonstrating.
Hold on, folks. First of all, I'm going to pause, okay? I would ask, you don't need to shove that in people's faces, ma'am, which you did do. So I would ask that you please keep your distance from folks. Excuse me, you don't have the microphone at the moment. I just asked if you could please, excuse me, I'll ask you to leave if you don't calm down. I'm only asking you to just keep your distance from other people in the room. Thank you very much. And Mrs. McLeod, I did pause. I'll give you a little more time.
Okay,
thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so I want to reiterate that. So that's appropriate. Susanna doesn't have the right to rage and resist something that shows women being completely demoralized. Raped and forced to eat out of a dog bowl while on a leash. That's disgusting, Jen. How can you ever defend that? While going on a tangent about bands off our bodies, respect women. I would love for you to explain how that makes sense. You are such a hypocrite. There is something seriously wrong with you, and shame on the rest of you for allowing her to conduct herself this way.
Mr. Chair, these comments are going beyond public comment to be attacking a member of the school committee.
I understand your concern, but I'm a firm believer that we are here to listen to what people have to say.
Thank you.
You have about 30 seconds.
Thank you. Yeah. So again, Mary and Carol, while you're at it, you're not the greatest lawyer. Everything you've said, I've come to you about her, and she's, Jen has her First Amendment right. She can do whatever she wants legally, right? How about morally? How about you act like a human being in this town and set an example for the girls who are growing up here? I hope you guys all have a great summer knowing you couldn't have done a worse job. And good riddance, Mary King.
Thank you very much. Next is Karen Kuzminski.
Good riddance, Tiffany McLeod, you 12-year-old.
Ms. King, please. Okay, next we have Karen Kuzminski.
Karen Kuzminski, 22, Matola Drive, North Kingstown. So I'm glad we're having the conversation about mental health. I think that we need to think a little bit more outside the box with programs that support kids, extracurricular activities that would support them discovering what helps their own mental health improve. I would like to see that in place for kids and teachers as well. I feel like it's become very evident that we have a real problem with our mental health in this community. And this is a very creative and vibrant and beautiful community. So I'd like to see you receiving more input, listening to parents, maybe subcommittees, within the community. I think we have a lot of gifts and talents we could help out, and I think people are more than happy to help out with the children, kindergarten through high school, and as well as the teachers. So I'd like us thinking more out of the box about how we can do that. And also, it's not hard to connect the dots that we do have this big mental health issue going on. We do have, unfortunately, the pedophiles coming out of the woodwork in the system, and it's not hard to connect the dots that our curriculum being so highly sexualized supports that. So I think we need to re-examine that. We need to be a little open-minded about what's really not working and what's causing more harm than good. So looking at the program, the curriculum being highly sexualized, let's get rid of that. Let's look at the anti-American theme. I don't think that's helping. It's creating a divide in our kids. And the violence that I am aware of in the literature, I think is not helpful at all. I think it's creating more violence. It was once said, don't watch and don't read what you don't want to experience yourself. And we're giving it to our kids. It's in their faces. It's really clear to me that it's affecting them negatively. So I would like that to be reconsidered. The entire agenda that we have going on, our programming is an agenda from my perspective. My son will come home and he'll actually say, they showed a film in school and it was real subtle, but he could see the anti-American theme going on in there. So the kids are noticing. So I just hope you take some of this to heart. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Kristen Belland. Sorry. Again, if I mispronounce your name, my apologies.
You're good, thank you. Hi, my name is Kristen Rhodes Beeland. I live at 1434 Wampanoag Trail in Riverside, Rhode Island, on the other side of the bay. But I've been a teacher here in North Kingstown for 19 years, and I've always been proud to say that I've been able to do so. Lisa Garcia and I have been petitioning to get more educator wellness in our school district, and not because of just the last year. In 2019, as a Teach Plus Policy Fellow, I was asked to lead focus groups for the Rhode Island reopening of schools. I met with teachers across our district, but I also met with teachers across the state. And the resounding thing that came from the focus questions that were asked came down to teachers were very concerned about where they were feeling and standing and where their students were feeling and standing. And the one thing that we know as educators is we need to be the strongest people possible in order for our students to get the best education possible. So we're really grateful that we were able to meet with Kathy Sapala and that she was willing to hear some of the ideas that we have. Because at the end of the day, everybody's asking, what is educator wellness? And the district has done a good job of giving us, presentations on strategies and breathing exercises. You do the health days where people can get together and exercise. There's yoga. But those are strategies that people can individually take on and use for themselves. And then there's systematic change that can happen across the district. And I think North Kingstown's capable of making systematic change happen. And I think it's something that starts with culture. And we talk about how powerful and impactful school culture is within one building amongst teachers, students, and families. But it would be even more powerful to see something like that happen across an entire school district. And it starts with trust and transparency. It starts with being and having administrators that are willing to communicate. But I think the other thing that happens is when admin is allowing teachers to step up and be heard and seen and valued. We have a lot of strong professionals in this district. I've been so proud to work alongside them. We have phenomenal ideas and we see what our students need every day. And to be seen and heard and valued and to have that ability to bring teacher leadership to our school district would really be transformative. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Jordan Albanese.
Hey everyone, Jordan Albanese, 109 Mount View Road, Narragansett. I spoke at the last school committee meeting and I had a prepared speech and I was fiery and angry and not at people but at policy and procedure. And I just want to thank Greg, Lisa, Jen, Jake. You all emailed me afterwards, and I think that it's important for me to acknowledge that you all did that. And you responded and you took the time to really try to figure out what's going on and how you can help and all of that. Unfortunately, a lot of my words were put on other media platforms and spun against me and used in an incorrect way. I am not a parent against indoctrination, unfortunately. I believe that we are doing a great job in this district educating our students, and I just think it's important for me to say that. I also wanted to say that, unfortunately, 0 administrators have contacted me or asked me anything regarding that. So I will be sharing some things with you that I think can move us forward, whether that's, like teacher bonding time outside of the school district or in our school. But I will be sharing those things with you, and I just want to appreciate and acknowledge that you all communicated with me, but 0 administrators have. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Next is Kathleen Layton.
Hi, my name is Kathleen Layton, 17 Pilgrim Drive, North Kingstown. So, last school community meeting of the year, and I'm ecstatic. It's been a painful year, but I'm amongst great company because 2 of my children's favorite teachers just spoke right before me, Mrs. Beelan and Mr. Alvarez, so thank you. I'm a happy parent. And I love the North Kingstown School Department, and I love my children's teachers. I worked there briefly. It was the best job ever. So this year has been painful because of a small group of angry, vocal, and organized people, a judgment group. And it's been a seasonal flurry of hatred. And we see it here tonight. I don't know why somebody was thrusting a picture in my face, but that gives me anxiety, but I come here because I believe in the product and because it is about the students, and I love students and I love teachers. So let's do better next year because between the recall campaign to the masks, the gender-neutral bathrooms, the verbal assaults on elected officials, when you do that when it's time for an election, which is coming soon. So good luck, and thank you so much for being here, teachers, because I've been here all year, and during the budget time, maybe next time we can reconvene, because when it was budget time and so much was going on and we're dealing with a scandal that's breaking our community's heart, there were parents, one tonight, Megan Riley, who spoke at the town council and I believe the school committee meeting about freezing the budget. But okay, I'm sorry, parents did.
Hold on. We have one person at the microphone at a time.
I mean,
hold on. Excuse me.
You did.
Excuse me, both of you, please. We have one person at the microphone at a time. People have 3 minutes to speak. I let people have 3 minutes to speak. We have First Amendment rights in this country. If someone has a problem with what somebody has to say, excuse me. If someone has a problem with something that someone has to say, there are remedies for that you are welcome to do. But it has nothing to do with what this person has a right to speak right now. Excuse me. If you continue to interrupt, both of you, please. If you continue to interrupt, I will ask you to leave. You have the microphone. I have paused the timer. Now, we'll continue. You have 56 seconds remaining.
Thank you.
We can ignore the light because the light doesn't know that. That's why I'm running 2 timers. So, you may carry on.
Let's just work together and please know who is really supporting you as teachers, okay? And can we please behave better next year? I mean, it's been painful, okay? And let's not ban books. Let's not get in a tizzy about things that do not pertain to you and your family. Worry about yourself going forward and have a great summer.
Thank you. Next speaker is Jim McGlynn.
Jim McGuinn, 412 Chimney Rock Drive. I have to begin that we had an outburst from someone in the audience, but we've also had continued outbursts from Mary King through the years.
Bruh, you're going to have to get some new material this summer. Seriously.
There we go.
You and your mean girl buddy, you're going to have to find some new material,
nice.
somebody new to pick on. But
Okay, folks.
Sorry.
I've never used a gavel in my entire time here. I wish I had one tonight. So, Mrs. King, if you could please refrain from interrupting speakers. Mr. McGuinn, well, let's take a moment. I'm going to...
Do I have my 3 minutes?
Of course you do.
Okay.
So, if we could all not interrupt each other, whether you're here or whether you're there. So, Mr. McGuinn, I have 227 on here, but you have more than that, so it's more like 245. So, carry on.
The events, particularly of the last year, have illustrated how dysfunctional this organization is. It's cloaked in secrecy. Teachers don't get information. Parents don't get information. People who do APRAs don't get information. The school committee, administration, and legal counsel have shown repeatedly either indifference, incompetence at times, and most often arrogance. This has provided those things, the secrecy, lack of transparency we heard from teachers, are a petri dish for the kind of abuse that's going on. And there isn't just one thing with Mr. Thomas. Now there's been reported 6 different cases of abuse involving boys and girls over many years. And I've said before, there may be more. I still have not heard about, under the 2016 Rhode Island law, that you're supposed to report, any of us are supposed to report child abuse within 24 hours. Last June, when you got Mr. Oliverio's report, did you update DCYF? You didn't update RIDE. You put other children at risk. He went to an elementary school. You've got another teacher apparently that went from North Kingston to another school district, had to leave that school district and go to a third one. This isn't a joke. The most recent one reported attempted suicide. You talk about a lot of things here. I don't see you even making up your requirement under Rhode Island law for the Health and Wellness Committee. It's supposed to meet 4 times a year. Ms. Leamer, I think you were on it. The last meeting, I think, wasn't held because there wasn't a quorum. There is one positive I can report, though. I asked you to support the bill before the legislature to protect children from child abuse. Because of what's happened in North Kingston, that bill passed. Thank God. And kids in North Kingston, kids in Rhode Island will be protected now and in the future. No thanks to you. Every time you had the
Mr. McGuinn, I'd have
opportunity
to ask you
to
to
do
please wrap up.
something right, you did not. It's got to change. This is a dysfunctional organization. We can thank our teachers.
Mr. McGuinn, your time's expired, sir.
They're the front line.
Thank you. Okay, so I have one more name. You didn't put your name and address, so I'd ask you to please recite it for the record. It's Eric Bryan.
Hi, good evening. Eric Bryan, 83 Columbia Avenue in Jamestown. Thank you very much for letting me speak tonight, and thank you very much for what you do for the community. I know it's not easy to be up there. I'm sure you could stay at home and get yelled at on a Tuesday night, so appreciate you being here to listen to everybody's concerns. I'm here to talk to you tonight and advocate on behalf of my child for mental health ability at North Kingstown High School. I know it's just one student, but it's one of the students that has been seen by ESS over the last year, and I want to give you a little bit of an insight into the very personal experience that student has had. I have multiple kids. This is my oldest of 4 that'll be coming through NK. That's a rising junior next year, and one of 2 kids that I have that are diagnosed with OCD. And if you know anything about obsessive compulsive disorder, it's a bit of a challenge, and I think you can probably imagine that if you have OCD and you live through a pandemic, it just makes you think that you were right all along. It's everybody else that was wrong, and the pandemic just proved you right? So it's been a challenge for a couple of my kids. And one of my kids started this year, not in high school, but in residence at Bradley. And I'll tell you, if it wasn't for the services that were provided by ESS, I don't know that we really would have made it through this year. It was a tremendous challenge, not only for my student, for my child, but for my entire family. And I know it's very hard to get quantifiable metrics for a mental health program. It takes a lot of time to build those sort of things. It takes time to build rapport with students, and it's incredibly important to build that relationship. So I'm here to advocate for my child to make sure that support can continue next year. The only quantifiable metric that I am thinking about is a 1 and a 0. This is really, do I have a 16-year-old or do I not have a 16-year-old? And that was a metric that I was really concerned about. It's important. I know you have to make sure that there's more services available for more students over the next year, and I hope they provided some solutions and will provide some solutions. But that continuity of care is really important. So I urge you to please make sure that services are in place for students like my child and others that struggle a bit, and consider the continuity of care that's available with the proposal that's before you. If you can't see to it that this proposal continues, I really want to urge you to find something that's suitable, and I'd like to engage you on what can work. Because I can tell you as a parent, this has worked for us, and if it wasn't for the program that you all put in place previously, I might not have a 16-year-old. So thank you so much. I hope you'll consider that when you vote this evening.
Thank you. Okay, that concludes citizens' comments. We'll move on with our agenda. Next item would be Superintendent's report. Mr. Waterman.
Yes, the first item I'd like to update everyone on is the superintendent search. We have all of our focus groups at this point have concluded, and the community survey that if you've been to our webpage, it pops up every single time. There's only 2 more days that's pop-up is going to be there, because Thursday at noon is your last chance for the public to weigh in on the search for the new superintendent. So if you need help getting there, go to our webpage, nksd.net, and you'll be greeted by a pop-up with a link that'll take you right to the survey. I did hear today that the survey was down. What happened was they started pulling some data out, and in order to do that, they shut the survey off. But that survey is back on. So if you did go to the survey and it said that it was closed, it is reopened. So Thursday at noon is the last time for that survey. The next item I have is a year-end report, and I just want to take this time, one last time, to congratulate the class of 2022, as well as all of the kids who are moving up 1 grade, to our staff members who are leaving us either to other districts or through retirement. I wish you the best in your future endeavors, and to Ms. King, who's leaving us after 10 years of service, I wish you the best, so thank you.
Thank you. And again, to echo Mr. Waterman and Mrs. King, I should have said it in recognitions. I tend to get tunnel vision. I want to get through our agenda and get everyone home, so I sometimes forget things, but I want to thank you again for your many years of service. As we talked about earlier today, the 2 of us have had a lot of very interesting meetings on a wide variety of topics. I've always appreciated your counsel and your hard work, and we wish you the very best in everything that you do going forward.
Thank you very much. I wish you the best as well. I'm sorry that there are some disrespectful people that don't know how to talk facts and they attack you. You're all doing a great job. Keep supporting North Kingstown. I would also say that there's a saying that my stepdaughter, she got me hooked on Taylor Swift music, and there's a saying in one of her songs that says, people throw rocks at things that shine. So I would tell you, North Kingstown School Department, teachers, families, and students, administrators, everybody, keep shining. Thank you.
Thank you. And moving on to routine items from our executive session, I'd ask for a motion to seal the executive session minutes of June 14th, 2022. I have a motion from Ms. Lima, second Mr. Mather. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously. And I can disclose that no votes were taken in this evening's executive session. For consent agenda, do any members have any items they'd like to exempt from the consent agenda? Ms. Lima? C2. Any others? If not, I'd ask for a motion to approve the non-exempted consent agenda items. Second from Ms. Lima. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously. And then, Ms. Lima, you exempted C2. So let's start with a motion to approve item C2.
So moved.
Motion from Ms. Lima, second from Ms. Hildebrand.
So the only thing is that I would like to have something added to the minutes for this section for the discussion that we had on the policy on employee conduct about the student's appearance. There was a fair amount of back and forth, and that was mentioned, and I would just like to have that put in the record, especially the part about how it's up to administration to enforce it appropriately.
Okay, so if we could have the meeting minutes amended to include that comment from Ms. Lima, just to clarify regarding her comments about the administration enforcing that policy appropriately. All those in favor of approving the minutes with that change? Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Next is the school committee approval of the ESS contract. If I can get a motion to approve item 5. I have a motion from Mr. Mather. Second. Second from Ms. Hildebrand. Any discussion? Ms. Lima.
So, first off, I'd like to thank you for coming tonight and sharing your story. We've heard from a lot of parents this week. This has been 2 weeks. This is, for me personally, this has been very difficult. I know what it's like to have a family member who suffers, who deals with mental illness. And I was all for this proposal when it came before us last year on the basis that if it saved one child, it was worth it. And you've pretty much justified its existence right now. But over the past year, I have seen the need for mental health services increase, and I am really struggling with the fact that there are more children in our district who deserve to feel the peace of mind that the families of those 30 students have received. I've asked the administration what the other options are other than this proposal. It doesn't sound like there are any. I appreciate the fact that ESS went back and modified the proposal to add the tier 2, but I still feel that, the number of students that this contract would serve, and I don't want it to sound like I'm quantifying a dollar value on the price of a student's mental health, because that's absolutely not it. I just feel that the level of need in our community is so great, we have to make sure that we are most effectively allocating these resources. I am concerned that ESS has been unable to provide updated information. I understand the quarter just ended, but the initial data that they provided was not reassuring in terms of the metrics that they provided. Again, I understand it's difficult to quantify mental health. I would feel much more comfortable if we were able to delay the signing of this until we could see the data from this last quarter, and if we could put a clause in it to specify that instead of signing a contract for a year, it would be contingent upon the first quarter results, so that we could see whether there truly is this continued momentum that they keep saying is going to be building.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments? Mr. Mather?
I just have a quick comment. It's not directly about ESS, but the financial impact statement on the front page is $445,000 financial impact. In fact, the financial impact is $415,000 according to the contract or the proposal. So
right. When we had attached it at the last meeting, that was the original contract, so there were changes made. So you're right. The motion, if you pass it, should be the amount in the new contract that was attached.
And did you want to? Yeah. Okay, Ms. Hildebrand? Can I use? Oh, yep. Sorry, I forgot you don't have one. We'll share.
So I don't disagree with you. I actually do agree with you. I think that broadening our services, being able to provide more support and mental health to our children that need it in the district is absolutely what we should strive for. I'm wondering, though, if maybe Mr. Waterman, to put you on the spot, if you can comment on other options. So I know at this particular time we are searching for a school psychologist for the high school. And you've done a little bit of looking through it's not at the high school, school psychologists, the availability of our mental health staff in the state. I know that this is an issue, right? Like, there is a staffing crisis of mental health professionals who we could actually employ to be able to support a broader range of students. And my concern is if we don't, for example, if we don't move forward on this contract and we decide perhaps that it's a different kind of avenue that we want to pursue, whether it be hiring additional staff to support more students, that we're going to be in a situation where we have nobody. And then we're back to square one where we have nothing. And we might be in a place where we've kind of just, sacrificed everything with no plan B.
Certainly. So I can provide a few comments. Last summer when we had a full-time 1.0 full-time position, not a 1 year only, it took us until November to fill that position with a qualified candidate. So when a school psychologist or a school social worker is employed by a district, they have to have the RIDE certification of school social worker, school psychologist. When you have an outside organization, we are bringing them on as a consultant, and they're allowed to hire social workers and psychologists and don't need that school certification. So that's one of the benefits to going with a vendor, is they're able to provide a staff. You're right, every district is working to add to their mental health staffing, which is, we're all pulling from a very small pool of candidates. We currently have one school psychologist vacancy and one school social worker vacancy, and those again are 1.0 full-time positions. The alternative would be posting three, some combination of school psychologists / social workers, and those would be 1 year only positions. I do not have great confidence that we would ever fill those positions when there are full-time positions available.
And, yep.
Again, I'm going to go back to, I agree with Lisa that these are ESSER funds that we have to use now. I believe there's a savings from the first time because the program didn't start out right away. But I am going to task the administration today to come up with a plan for when these funds run out to support these families, these students, these teachers at all schools in the district. We need a plan. These monies are going to run out, and we are not going to be able to sustain this program. And that's honest. Like, this district cannot afford that. So, yes, we have the funds now, but those funds are not going to keep coming, and we need to have a plan. So pushing it down the pipeline for the next person or the next thing, we need, whether it's focus groups, whether it's talking to the teachers, the administration, the union, the parents, we need a plan. So that's my comment.
I'm going to absolutely second that, Jen, and second a lot of the stuff that was set up here. But I'm not going to reiterate it. But we have a year. We have a year right now to figure out what we're going to do and how we're going to do it and when these ESSER funds run out, and whether or not it's with ESS or whether or not it's hiring additional staff. But we need to be doing this simultaneously.
So just want to comment two things. One point I'd like to add that's sort of unique to this program that's different than what we can provide with our own full-time people is that there's a significant out-of-school, component to this in the home, in the evenings, that ESS can provide that's very difficult, if not impossible, for the district to provide. So this is a unique program that has that added benefit. And a bunch of you brought up something that's really important that I wanted to add as well, which is this is our classic conundrum with grant funding. The issue with grant funding is someone offers you a bunch of money to do something for a limited time. And as a school committee like us, we are basically given the choice of either not ever doing it and not taking the money, or doing it knowing that you only have the funds for a limited time and you can't do it forever. And this is the perfect example for that. We don't expect to have this type of ESSER funding next year, and the sustainability within our budget, this is a very expensive program. I mean, it's wonderful to have these resources now. The idea behind it is to react to a lot of COVID-related student needs, which is why in the federal government's mind, okay, next year we're past that. Well, we're not. We all know we're not, and it becomes a real challenge to try to increase the mental health and social worker and just emotional well-being for our teachers and our students beyond this year. And that's going to be something that we're going to need to continue to work on and try to see, within the budget that we have and the parameters that we have and the reshuffling of priorities, what we can do to I don't think we'll be able to replace this program, but at least to fill the gaps as much as we can, and maybe even in some new areas that we're not able to do now. So that's my take on it.
Can I just make
Sure.
2 other comments? One, the out-of-school time, that was actually a statistic that I had asked for from ESS, and they were unable to provide it. So I'd like to add that to the list of data that they provide us moving forward, is how many of those services are being provided out of time. And on the need for having to plan, I would just like to remind people that we were unable to fund 3 requested positions that we asked for this year specifically for mental health because town council did not fully allocate the money that we asked for. And also, I'll be perfectly blunt, there was not a lot of community support for us with the budget that we put forward. And I would really hope that as we get into the budget planning season next year, that people remember these difficult conversations around mental health and they show up and they advocate for the funds necessary to support it. Because like everybody here said, we are not going to be able to sustain this particular program, and it is a huge issue right now in our schools outside of this. So thank you.
And that's a good point. Just one more thing. This is boring stuff. You guys as teachers, and there's still a lot of teachers in the room, you know what it's like to say the same thing over and over again every year. And sometimes it sticks and sometimes it doesn't. But one thing that we say every year and we try to explain is that when you're coming to the microphone, and I'm not speaking to you in particular, I mean anyone. When someone comes to the microphone in June and is upset because something got cut from the budget, that ship sailed. The time that we need the support is early on when the town council is appropriating our budget, because that's going to decide how much money we have, and then from there what we can do. As Ms. Lima mentioned, we had asked specifically for an amount of funding that would have allowed us to add mental health professionals in the district, and the town council did not appropriate those funds for us. I will also have to make a point, and I'm going to make it, that we've had people who've come to the microphone and turned to you and advocated for the things that you were asking for, but we're at those meetings asking the town not to appropriate that money. And I just want to make sure that you understand that, there are people that are acting like they're your friends right now, but we're not when we were asking for the money. I have to make that point. So having said that, we have a motion and a second on the table, so we'll come to a vote unless there's any other comments or discussion. Okay. All those in favor of approving? Aye. Any opposed? That passes unanimously. Okay. So next, we have the school committee approval and discussion of possible addition of members to the NSDEC Superintendent Search Committee. I know Ms. Lima and I both have things that we want to talk about, but I'll let you go first.
Do you want to put a motion? I was
going to let you do the first motion.
I'll go first. Okay, so I would make a motion to add an addition. Well, actually, I would make a motion. We had allocated 15 spots during our very long and convoluted math discussion on how many people to fill. We'd allocated 15. Currently, we have not received a candidate from Chamber of Commerce, and I would like to make a motion to fill that open spot with a teacher from the middle school level as requested by the teachers. I know that the town is also looking for us to add another spot, but we were very clear in our meeting at the time when we were going through this that we felt that one spot was enough for the town and that the town should decide, did they want to send the town council rep or did they want to send the town manager? I believe I've heard many issues about the fact that this committee is too big to begin with, there's too many people. We're not adding a person. If we add a teacher, we're just swapping them out. And I think the town manager and the town council need to duke it out and decide who they want to send over. We gave them one spot, and they're asking for two. So I would put the motion just to not add anybody else, but to move in a middle school teacher for the Chamber of Commerce.
So we'll take, if I can, take that as a motion to add a middle school teacher with a second, and then I'll do my bit after, if that's okay. Okay, so any discussion there? So one thing I'd add is I am also concerned about the size of the committee. I will tell you, up front, I'm going to add a motion after this to appoint the town manager. I advocated for that when we did have our meeting as to who we felt should be on the committee. I do think that the town manager is a person with a lot of experience. He's done superintendent searches. He's been the mayor of a town. So he's been involved in superintendent searches in other localities and has a lot that I think that he could bring to the table. So, but we'll take yours to start with. So
I just want to say I don't disagree with anything that you said about the town manager. I just think that the town should have one spot, and they need to decide who fills it.
I hear you. So we'll vote on this first one. So all those in favor of adding an additional teacher? Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously. And I'm going to make a motion that we add the town manager to the search committee as well. Do I have a second? I have a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? So that passes 3-2. Okay, thank you. Next, we have school committee approval of designated authorized signatories, which is a formality, but Mrs. King, if you could speak briefly to this.
Yes, so this motion we usually do at election time at your biennial meeting, but now we have changes that we have to make now. So we're going to be adding the new director of finance to the signatory. We're making sure that Mr. Waterman is on there. So obviously when you have a new superintendent, you'll need to make those changes as well as cleaning up and making sure that our two controllers are on the are approved by you guys as signatories. Obviously they're on our accounts, but you guys are approving that formally tonight.
Okay, thank you. So let's start with a motion to approve. Motion from Ms. Lima. Second from Ms. Hildebrand. Any discussion? And all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Next, we have the school committee approval of the NSDAC superintendent candidate profile. Let's start with a motion to approve. The motion from Ms. Lima. Second from, we'll give it to Ms. Hoskins. That was a tie, by the way, but I'll call it. You're closer to me. So let me just speak briefly. So the NSDAC folks, based on the focus group surveys and data that they have been collected, prepared this to go out for just the after listening to the community, what the main areas of focus that they wanted to see in a superintendent and for the search committee to look at. Any comments or questions? Yep, Ms. Lima.
So I think I agree with the profile as written, but the two things that I noticed after going through the backup were that nowhere in this summary does it even mention the word teacher, yet overwhelmingly the open-ended comments referred to the need to include teachers and support teachers. So I really would like to see that called out in some way in what we're looking for is somebody who is...
Do you want to add a sentence? Can you craft something? Or do you want to just give them, we'll approve it with the direction that they specifically include,
Can we use the term educator so that?
Yes, that's fine. That's fine. Yeah. Just, has experience with and is willing to listen and include teachers in the process.
Okay, so if we could just have Mr. Lally communicate that comment. Any other comments?
The only other thing was the other overwhelming comment was that they're looking for somebody who is going to be visible and hands-on and getting in the muck basically, and I don't see that anywhere listed either, and I think that is an important quality that needs to be specifically called out because not everybody likes to do that. Okay,
so we'll approve it with the comments of those two items that we'd like to call to the attention of the NSDAC committee to add in there. Yep. Okay, I think we can do that. Any other discussion? And all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Moving on to unfinished business, 2021-22 school budget and 2022-23.
Nope.
CIP existing bond and future bond.
Nope.
Okay, so then we have some policies that we're continuing on. So we have our second read of policy, wow, that's a lot of B's, policy GBEBB, which is our new policy on employee professional conduct with students, and it's the second read. If I could get a motion to approve item D1. A motion from Ms. Lima, second from Ms. Hildebrand. Any discussion?
Of course, we received some feedback on this that I think is very important, that there should be an annual summary report required by the school committee on the numbers, actions, and findings of all the reports made under this policy. That'll allow us to understand the scope of the problem, or if there isn't one, and trend the data. And I think that is important, and I'd like to add that to the policy itself.
Okay, so let's do this. Let's withdraw the motion in the second with unanimous consent unless anyone has any objection. And so and we can still make a change on this. So we'll got to figure out where we're putting that. Probably right at the end, right? We can make a D, and let's say I'm going to make a motion. The motion to approve GBEBB, which is item D1, with the addition of a paragraph D, which will read, and the administration, let's see, tell me if I'm writing on the fly here, and the administration shall provide the school committee with an annual report of all, what do we want to say, data, all numbers, actions, and findings of all reports made under this policy, period. Okay, and then we get an annual report back. Okay, we can do that. Now I need a second.
Second.
Second from Ms. Hildebrand. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Next, I'd ask for a motion to approve item D2.
So moved.
Motion from Ms. Hildebrand. Second from Ms. Lima. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously. I'd ask for a motion to approve item D3. Motion from Mr. Mather. Second from Ms. Lima. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously. We have a disposal notification. Yep.
Business. I had something just to bring up.
Well, if it's not on the agenda, we can't
Well, it says, oh, okay.
do
All
it.
right.
So, so reports, special reports, we have a disposal notification, and financial reports. Any questions on those? And then DEI subcommittee, Ms. Lima, I know you had a meeting, you wanted to report out something.
Yes, so the DEI committee had a meeting on June 22nd, and in that meeting, we voted to make the following recommendation to the full school committee, that all district forms and documents, including Aspen and Canvas, be updated to reflect gender-neutral language, be inclusive of all family types, allow for multiple options for racial and ethnic identity, meaning not an other, and also to be available in a family's native language. The goal will be to have these updated by the beginning of the 2022-2023 school year.
Okay, thank you very much. And what I'd say for Mr. Waterman is there's a lot in that could have impacts across the board, so I'd ask if you folks could take a look at that recommendation, and then you can report back to the school committee at a later time, with what you think the best way to work with that would be, and then we'll talk it through.
Certainly, and there may be limitations put upon us. For example, I know our student rep has made some requests of Canvas that they are running through, so we don't have complete control over everything. So is there a where possible?
Well, that's the idea.
Yeah, I'd like to know what is possible and what isn't. I mean, some I would imagine, like I know our documents, this one doesn't, but refers to we don't discriminate on the basis of sex. It should be gender. So we adding things like that is an easy. I say easy. I know it's not easy, but like that doesn't require a computer programming fix. That's just changing the template. So I would imagine that they probably go from easy to are you out of your mind? So I'd kind of like to know where they all fall.
Sure. Okay, then we've reached the end of our agenda, and I ask for a motion to adjourn. Motion from Mr. Mather, second from Ms. Lima. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? It passes unanimously. We are adjourned. Thank you all for coming this evening.